The beak on your face is stuffed with dried roses and lavender, but all you can smell is rotting meat. You aren't here to save anyone. You're here to witness the end of the world. You are a plague doctor. You've just signed a contract that pays you 4 times the normal rate. But there's a catch. You are now legally separated from the rest of humanity. If you touch a healthy person, you're breaking the law. If you take off that mask, you're a dead man. You're about to step into a house where every single person is already a ghost. But before you push open that door, you need to understand the terrifying logic of the suit you're wearing and why it's the only reason you're still breathing. The year is 1656. The plague has returned. It has already killed hundreds of thousands across Italy. And every time it comes back, a city needs someone to walk toward it while everyone else runs away. The established physicians, the respected, trained, wealthy doctors are already gone. During the Venice outbreak, nearly every doctor who stayed ended up dead or vanished. The men who could afford to leave have already fled the city you're standing in, which means the city had to turn to someone cheaper, someone more desperate. They turned to you. You are hired under a contract. It specifies your pay 4 times the normal physician's rate, because the normal rate is not enough to make this worth it. Your duties, your housing, and crucially, what happens after each patient visit? You are quarantined. You cannot go home. You cannot walk the markets or attend church. You are, for the duration of this epidemic, legally separated from the rest of humanity. And here is the part of your job description that no one tells you until the contract is already signed. You are not primarily here to cure anyone. You are here to count. Your primary duty is record keeping. You count the dead, witness wills, and sometimes perform autopsies in the desperate hope that someone might learn how to stop this. But if the pay is so good and you're just counting, why is everyone so afraid of you? Because the mask doesn't just filter the air, it marks you as a harbinger of death, and yet it's the only reason you're still alive. Let's talk about the suit. The costume looks insane, but everything about it was designed with a terrifying logic, a logic built entirely on the wrong theory. Start at the bottom. Your boots are Moroccan goatskin, dense, tightly poured leather that is harder for fleas to grip. Your robe is waxed linen or leather, sealed at every seam, tucked into your gloves and your collar so that no air, no miasma can find a gap to enter. A wide-brimmed leather hat announces your profession to anyone on the street, and your cane, a long wooden rod, lets you examine patients, move their clothing, even take their pulse without ever making physical contact. Then there is the beak, half a foot long, shaped like a bird's bill, sealed against your face with leather straps. The glass eyes are set wide, which means your actual field of vision inside the mask is almost nothing. You are half blind, breathing through a nose that isn't yours, walking streets that smell of death through a filter of lavender, camphor, dried roses, myrrh, and a vinegar-soaked sponge. The theory is miasma. Disease travels in bad air. Counter the bad air with good air, and the miasma cannot reach you. The herbs in the beak are your defense. The theory is completely wrong. The plague is caused by Yersinia pestis, a bacterium transmitted by flea bites, not by smell. You are wearing the right answer for all the wrong reasons. The herbs do nothing to stop infection. But here is the cruel irony that will not be understood for another 2 centuries. The waxed leather and the full body coverage accidentally work. Not because of miasma, because fleas cannot grip waxed leather, because your face and hands are fully covered. You are wearing, without knowing it, one of the earliest hazmat suits in human history. The right answer, the wrong reason. But here's what the history books don't tell you about wearing this suit. It doesn't make you feel powerful. It makes you feel like a ghost. People see you coming and they freeze. Some cross themselves. Some pull their children inside. A satirical pamphlet from 1656, Dr. Beak of Rome, published in Germany, describes a plague doctor who does nothing but terrify people and take money from the dead and dying. That is how the city sees you, not as a healer, as a harbinger. The last thing many patients will see before they die is the glass eyes of your mask staring down at them. You have become, to the people who need you most, a symbol of the thing they are most afraid of. You push through it. You have to. Because across town, In a house you visited yesterday, a man's Bubo has just ruptured, and you need to be there. You have seen this so many times that you have a system, but that doesn't mean it gets easier to watch. Before you even step inside, you have to make a choice. You carry a wooden cane, not for walking, but for distance. It is your only barrier between life and the abyss. You use it to lift the bed sheets of a person who was your neighbor a week ago. You use it to point to where the pain is sharpest, so you never have to lay a finger on their skin. You see the hope in their eyes when you enter, thinking a doctor has finally arrived. But then they see the glass eyes and the wooden stick, and they realize you aren't there to hold their hand. You are there to keep them at arm's length until they stop breathing. Day 1, the patient feels a fever coming on, fatigue, a headache. They think they've overworked themselves. Then, usually in the armpit, the groin, or the neck, they find the lump. It is hard. It is hot to the touch. It is already the size of a chicken's egg and growing. This is the Bubo, a lymph node swollen with bacteria and blood. Day 2 and 3, the Bubo grows. It turns from skin-colored to red to dark purple to black as the tissue underneath begins to die. The patient runs a fever so high they become delirious, hallucinating, thrashing, soaking through every cloth in the room. The smell intensifies. The family of the patient has already been locked into the house with them, quarantined. No one in, no one out. If the Bubo bursts, if it ruptures and drains, there is a chance, a small one. Some patients survive this. You have seen it. You write it down carefully when it happens, because these are the cases that might, someday, teach someone something useful. If it doesn't burst, if the infection spreads to the bloodstream, you are looking at septicemic plague. The blood itself becomes infected. Dark blotches bloom across the skin as subcutaneous bleeding spreads. The extremities blacken. The organs fail. From the first symptom to death, 3 to 5 days, sometimes less. You do what you can. You lance the swelling, apply useless poultices, and ask for the patient's name. You have filled 3 of these ledgers already this month. You do not go home at the end of the day. You return to your quarantine quarters, and you sit in it alone, waiting for a clock that never stops resetting. You do the math inside the mask every day. Of 18 doctors in Venice, 5 were dead, 12 were gone, only 1 remained. You know the odds are against you, and every morning you go back out anyway. Not because you're a hero, but because the contract is signed, and because if you don't walk into those rooms, no one will. Somewhere in the gap between the wrong theory and the right result, between the herbs that don't work and the leather that accidentally does, you are keeping records that will outlast this outbreak. The names in your ledger will help the next generation understand something you never will. What is actually killing these people and how to stop it. You weren't a hero in the way history usually remembers them. You walked into rooms everyone else refused to enter, wrote down names no one else would touch, and went back the next morning and did it again. The Beak wasn't a costume, it was a bet, built on a wrong theory that happened to save your life anyway. Your name isn't in the ledger today. You've survived another shift. If you want to see which life you'll live next, subscribe and click the video on your screen now.